G'day subscribers, today we're going to show you the FJ Holden panel wagon. You're with Jules Knight on Jive Talking Garage. Well, members, from talking about the FJ on some of the posts we've been doing on Facebook and so on, I've been asked to shoot a little episode on the FJ and what we've been doing. So the first job we did was getting the car safe. So that meant jack stands, front and rear, both sides, and a pose. So they're really... these car ramps are acting like jack stands, really. They're a platform. Jack stands underneath, so it's actually raised 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth underneath the chassis rail and the sixth underneath the chassis rail. So that's how the FJ is up in the air. So that was the first bit of safety. The second bit of safety was to remove the fuel tank. So the fuel tank was moved from when the bulkhead was taken out, when new and the floor was put in, the fuel tank was moved to here. Now, Dan, the welder, and I have decided that this fuel tank, because it was so perfect, it's never been taken out, and it was actually buried and welded in place. So it took us an awful amount of time to actually get it out. So, you know, we need to cut this C channel and burn it back into place. And that bar's just sitting there waiting to do that. So that's fine. So that's the first thing. So you can't weld with an empty fuel tank sitting in there because it's full of petrol gas, and that's more dangerous than a full tank of petrol. So that's okay. So it's up off the ground. As I go over doggies here, you can see what things are like. Now, if we go to the front of the car as we make our way forward, so guards, doors, lower baffle panel. So it's all been stripped, obviously. I've got 5 holes here to have welded up as Louis runs into shop, Louis the supervisor. And so, so that's got weld through primer on it. So engine out, gearbox out, tail shaft out, wiring harness out. So we've totally removed the wiring harness now. So we've got the entire front off the car. So it's got no panels on it. So front suspension is into the sandblaster. So we have a replacement going for that. Replacement rear end, that's in with the sandblaster, as are the leaf springs. Louis, the supervisor's at it with Ella. They're having a bit of a discussion. So Dan has followed the bracing design and angle line top and bottom, and then you can see how he has crisscrossed the bracing in place, and I must say he's a perfect welder. And if you knew what he does for a living, you'd understand why and how he's so precise. What we're also going to do is provide some bracing from the mounting point here on the subframe to the bracing itself. So that will keep this from moving at all. There is minimal damage in the dog leg. So this is the dog leg. So it's a cross member that goes all the way across the car underneath the transmission tunnel, and that actually is the support for the chassis rail. So chassis rail here attaches chassis rail, attaches inner sill, and to that attaches to the outer sill. So that is all pour metal. We actually have replacement sills here, replacement outer sills there. I'm actually using sedan sills because they're longer and I can fabricate them to suit. And we also have new sills to replace these two holes that are in here. Sorry, I'm being distracted by Supervisor Louis, who's underneath the car at the time. One of the problems I had with the floor pan was it wasn't a perfect replacement to go from the bend on the kick panel to the bend at the inspection cover. So what we had to do was flatten the lip out of here to treat it as a single piece, as a flat piece, and then straighten the floor pan out, and then I had to refabricate the bend to actually make it more precise so that it was actual rather than fabricated, how it came from the replacement factory. So that took a little bit of doing, but you can see Dan's work, it is perfect. So it's going to be, let's see, replacement section of the dogleg. So dogleg is good to here. Dogleg is good to here, so we'll go past that. You need a T-section on here to the inner sill. All of this, once this is strapped with welding, all of this can go. We need this piece here to refabricate the attachment where the subframe meets the cross member, because then the cross member is welded to the chassis rail, and then the inner sill is welded to the cross member. So that's going to be replacement. That's existing because it's perfect. This is going to be cut here and a new section fabricated and put in. So I'm going to do that in two pieces. We were just discussing it before. So the plan is with the welding to pretty much do the three things on each side: floor pan, inner sill, and outer sill. Now if we just go outside for a moment, we've taken the door off, we've taken the guard off because we need to do some work here in the A-pillar. There's work to be done, and also work to be done here. And then the sill itself, that's a matter of getting the grinder on it and then taking all that out. It's all bad. We're going to put a replacement sill in there and it should fix it, as well as we need to do here too. You know, the bottom of this A-pillar, this is curved. So I'll bring a bollard up that we can actually use to fabricate the bend of this piece, because the bollard will give us the right angle. So that's fine. But this has all got to be chopped out. Now, when you're putting sills in, the important thing is to do this area here, leave it alone. You may cut here, you may cut there and put your new sill in and have the reflective part of your sill to go in place. But all of this, I leave it alone such that I can cut around here and then take the new sill here. Now I know with the sill itself, it actually has this piece running along it, which is where the rubber goes into that channel, and that's fine. But where it's not required, I will actually panel beat that flat, because then it has more metal to go up inside of this panel. So it will be a case of putting this panel on, slipping the metal, the new sill underneath and behind this part, and behind under here, behind all the way along, and then with a bar or a builder's wrecker, pushing the new panel against the existing panel, drilling through. You want to drill through in however many places along the way, so that you can then put the two metal pieces together, those two panels, put the drill through both. I've seen on overhauling where they put a screw through to fasten them together. I don't do that. I prefer to put a rivet through. I think on my ute we probably put 8 along the way to actually rivet those pieces together, and then we welded the seam. So then the new sill, the new outer sill was put in place, and then it was a matter of drilling the rivets out, getting the rivets out of the gutter, and then welding those 8 holes up. And then, you know, just grinding those welds and putting a bit of mud over them, and you would never know the difference. But it was all brand new metal, and that's all that mattered. But really, the FJ's a lovely straight car. Little bit of panel beating to do here. I'm not worried. That's one of the last jobs. It needs a damn fine wash. It was full of red dust. The fuel tank itself, the fuel tank is perfect. It was full of red dust. And the back of the car was full of red dust. So when Dan's finished, this will all be taken through the car wash, washed out underneath, because then the car's going to the sandblasters, because underneath is all going to be sandblasted. And what I'll also be doing is sandblasting from this point down. So all of the firewall, the apron panels inside and outside are all done. Kick panels done, and all underneath the car done, so that they can be sandblasted and all primed. And so then it will be a case of getting it back from the sandblaster so I can take it to JP's place, where the troncolator can come over with the replacement front end and rear end. I can paint the firewall ocean mist green. I can then paint underneath red oxide. On the way to JP's, we've got to go via the troncolators and put the rattle gear on all the fasteners and loosen everything off, because that's going to make our job easier. Because after I've done the painting of the firewall, the red oxide, I'm then going to shoot the apron panels. So this should be semi-gloss black. We'll then be in a place to do the rear suspension, so swap out the rear suspension. I'll bring up the motor and gearbox, and we will mate that at JP's house and put it on the transplanted front end that we've got. And then we will lower the car down, take this front end off, and then once we've got the motor and gearbox on the new front end, it'll be a case of we'll actually put it in place and then lower the car down onto that, and then just put the 4 bolts in place and the bra rubbers and whatever else that the troncolator's got to do. And that should give us back between 3/4 and 1 day's work. So look, I know we've got a little bit of rust. I know things aren't looking that great. We have had new brake lines all made up for it, thanks to the Brains Trust last week. I couldn't ask for a better person to be on the project with me to actually be doing it, because Dan is terrific at what he does, and I'm just project managing and making suggestions about how we should be doing this and how we should be doing that. So it's very collaborative, but we're getting there. And to my friend who said to me a couple of weeks ago, and now it's, shall we say, the middle of June, and he said to me, "You're never going to have that FJ ready for Christmas to go to the Nationals." I want to say thank you, because that's just the impetus I needed to get this FJ, so that on Christmas afternoon I can be toddling in my little FJ down the motorway, heading towards Port Macquarie, Sydney, and then onto Canberra to pick Tracy up from the airport, and then go to Cooma. So we've got the original boards going back in. I've got new runners that we'll be cutting next time. We need to cut the length because they're short. I have replacement panels, side cargo panels, that need to go in because they've got to be painted first. I've got all the hardware for them, but I'm not going to put them in until such time as we've got all the welding finished. Now, just at the back, the different configuration was, as I was telling people before, fuel tank was there, got moved to here. So this had the spare wheel. So then the spare wheel got moved to there. So that's going to go, because ultimately I will have a new fuel tank made for here, a new custom fuel tank just for this, to replace the one for it, because I really don't want a spare wheel in the back. I want a spare wheel where it belongs, because if I can get the spare wheel back, I can put my axle in and my other tools that go along here, that you use in case anything happens, you know, your wheel brace and all that sort of thing, and that'll be a much better situation. So this will be the appropriate Mundy Brown, the boards will be Mundy Brown, the cargo runners will be Mundy Brown, and underneath here will all be the red oxide. Andrew's just been given the job during the week, and I was talking to him last night about a new engine pipe. The Brains Trust have got a new exhaust for me. They've only had a spare one made for me 20 years ago. And I said, oh, what'd you get a spare one made? And they said, oh, we always knew you'd get another FJ. So, look, we're in a really good place. We're trying to do this as effectively and as efficiently as possible. However, you know, it's a really good car to start with. The aim is to make the engine bay and the chassis and suspension look excellent. Have that all prepared so that next year I can do the outside of the car and prepare that in such a manner that it matches the inside and the engine bay itself. So then we'll be in a pretty good place, because look, it is a lovely car. This is a 1956 car manufactured in the last 70. So it was a late FJ, so it would have the plastic wiring harness, and in a lot of late FJs I've also seen the FE air cleaner as well as the fuel inlet tube going from the pump to the carburetor that is actually in a curve before it goes into the carby, so it goes in at 180 degrees instead of the early ones, like on my old FJ, that went into the carburetor at 90 degrees at a right angle. But we've cut the old bumper bar off that was on it, because that was stopping the spare wheel from coming out, and in its old guise it didn't have a spare wheel down there, so it didn't matter to them. So Mr. Turnbull will be pretty pleased to see that we're not only putting things back to stock on his old car, but also we're trying to improve upon the design that had been used on it after it came away from Preston Motors when it was originally put together in Melbourne. So this was a 1956 car assembled in March of 1956, assembled in March of 1957, and it's in the last 70 of the FJs. Now my mate, he's got his ocean mist green panel van, so it's the same colour as this one. It's shall we say about 50 or so numbers after mine, and his is the latest number that I've seen. But as you can see, we were in a pretty good place. So we've got about 94 NASCO accessories to go on it, including the sliding windows. So if you had your windowless panels cut and you had fixed windows put in, that was £20. If you had the sliding windows put in, well, that was £48. So thanks to Tristan, we've got a set of sliders for it. But we are getting there. We're getting there. It's coming together. But anyway, don't forget to have a look at Jive Talking Garage on our Facebook page and see what we're up to. Always lots of interesting things being put in place there. But don't forget to share, like and subscribe. But more importantly, enjoy your Holden.